Hello Tesla Cats, this is Tesla-chan, or Lucy if you'd prefer, and welcome back to the channel. Now, this is going to be different from my normal content, as it's not a speed paint or a special recording or story time in the strictest of sense. Viewer discretion is highly advised, as there will be foul language, blood and gore mentions, abuse mentions, and other things that could potentially trigger those with those past experiences themselves. After all, this is my own little venture into a creepypasta fanfiction. If you feel so inclined to read along and you enjoy this type of stuff, congrats! You should be able to find the links to the story on both my DeviantArt and my Wattpad in the description down below. And I hope you will enjoy this little adventure with me. Now, shall we begin? I hope you're ready. Hunters of Ryzoth, Prologue Part 2, Blood Nova. Once my head hit the pillow, sleep was almost instantaneous. I couldn't tell you how long I was awake for before passing out, but seeing as it was rare, it resonated with me. I was often hyped, even ecstatic after a kill or two during the night, so thinking about those things often led to memories of Willow's lifeless body. This time, no success on the victim count, when it would have been the easiest. And with all this new info had left me tired, too tired and frustrated. When I passed out, it felt as though I'd woke up somewhere else, living a story through someone else's eyes. And I just couldn't change it. That said, if I could change this story, I would. A young girl woke up late at night. She knew if her dad were to see or hear her now, that she would get another slap to the face. She didn't understand why Papa hit her all the time, but she could only guess that he wanted what was best for her. That was why Mama had to die, according to him. Tonight felt different, like something new and exciting was about to begin. So despite not wanting to get another beating, she quietly stalked down the stairs, being careful to make as little noise as possible. As she stalked over to the back door of her house through the kitchen, she saw a star fly by. The girl quickly crossed her fingers and tightly closed her eyes. "Please, star, keep Papa asleep. And bring me a friend. I've never been allowed to have one." As she finished those words, she stood on her tiptoes to reach the doorknob and opened the door. She immediately began to shake. It was too cool outside, and she hadn't grabbed a jacket to avoid making too much noise. The girl's teeth began to chatter as the wind whistled through the trees, and the girl took her first steps off of the porch. The woods scared her. Every branch looked like an arm reaching out to grab her, and there was no guarantee that her papa wasn't hidden within the trees or in the shadows. As her breath began to sound more shaky, she took another step in front of her, causing a branch to snap. The girl immediately jumped, looking in every direction before she heard a kind voice behind her. "Are you okay?" The girl jumped once more and paused when she saw a young woman glowing behind her. The girl couldn't find the words to say. She just stood there, continuing to shake. "You look like you're freezing, kiddo," the woman said, now kneeling down to her level. The girl took an opportunity to study the lady's soft blue eyes and gentle-looking features. "An angel?" When the words left her mouth, she jumped, feeling a rush of heat fill her face. The young woman giggled a little, making the girl feel a little more at ease. "Well, I wouldn't call myself an angel. They would be more discreet," the woman said, seeming to try to make as much sense as possible. "I'm called an Esther. I was asked to look after someone." The girl giggled, already feeling like she could trust the woman in front of her. "Hello, Miss Esther," she cheered, bouncing on her heels. "I'm named Willow." The young woman chuckled, looking like she just enjoyed the little girl bounce around her. "Nice to meet you too, Willow." the woman said sweetly, brushing back a lock of blonde hair. "My name's actually Celeste. I was sent to look after you and help you where I can." Willow's eyes widened and began to sparkle. "Really?" she asked excitedly. Celeste nodded. "You're really important, Willow, but there is one rule. You aren't to tell anyone about me. People might try to hurt you because of it, especially if the wrong person found out." Willow seemed to nod. What was keeping this woman from her papa? He had secrets he wouldn't tell her, when his friends were over. "You've got it, Miss Celeste. I've got a question, though," she asked, causing Celeste to cock her head inquisitively. "Yes, Willow?" Celeste asked, her mind reeling due to her father's constant warnings about fulfilling her mission without mistakes. "Could you maybe be my friend? Papa says people are dangerous, but you seem okay, and I don't really have any friends, so..." Willow seemed to talk more quietly, like she had been yelled at for asking questions, both good and bad. Celeste took note of this behavior, making sure not to ask about it unless she knew her better. Upon reviewing her question mentally, Celeste could feel a twinge of pain when hearing this sweet young girl didn't have any friends. The longer she stayed silent, the more sad Willow got. Celeste suddenly began to freak, as she viewed this as bad for more reasons than one. Suddenly, Willow was hastily pulled into a loving embrace. "Sorry for not answering, Willow. Of course, I'd love to be friends. Please tell me if you need anything. Just call my name." Willow giggled at Celeste's flustered response. "It's okay, Miss Celeste," Willow said in a chipper tone after being released from the hug. "I would have understood if you'd said no." Celeste shook her head. I wouldn't say no to things I can do. Plus, I find it hard to believe that no one wants to be friends, so I promise I mean it, Willow." Willow beamed before cheering and giggling. "Okay," she said with joy. She seemed to bounce around due to joy alone. "I'm glad I went out here." Willow paused, looking at the area they were in. She knew she went still with fear. "Oh no. If I don't get back home before Papa wakes up, I don't know where I..." Willow began to panic. Her face went pale, revealing any bruises that were beginning to form from earlier. "Whoa, whoa, whoa," Celeste said in a comforting tone. "I can get you home without your dad knowing. Just relax." Celeste was carefully holding her shoulders when Willow began to panic again. Celeste got her to calm down. She even began to sing a lullaby to the young girl, causing her to fall asleep. The next morning, when Willow woke up, she was in her room with a note next to her pillow. She quickly snatched up the note and read it. "I told you I could get you home. Friend, I hope you got to sleep well. See you soon. Again soon. Celeste the Aster." Willow giggled, quickly hiding the note under her pillow when she heard her father marching up the stairs. "Willow!" Her father yelled, "Why haven't you come down to do chores?" Willow shook with fear. Before looking at the time, it was only 2 minutes past her time to get up, and yet it was still too long. "I'm sorry, Papa," she said, trying not to cry once she responded. Her father slammed the door open, furiously stomping over to her bed. "You're lucky I'm in a good mood today," he snarled, whilst getting into her face. Her father reeked of alcohol and looked like a disgusting mess. "Now clean the bathroom, the kitchen, and my room. That way I can enjoy my day in peace." Yes, Papa," Willow stuttered as she quickly and carefully slid past him to get started. Despite his comments on being in a good mood, Willow still figured that either she wasn't getting any food today, wasn't going to school, or a beating would come after she completed her work. Either way, her father was strict. He wanted her to be prepared for the future. That said, interacting with Celeste, she wasn't so sure anymore. "You can forget about school or breakfast," her father yelled from across the house. Willow wanted to cry desperately, but she knew it would only make things worse. After the nice night she had, she couldn't contain her tears this time, though. So she cried. As she worked throughout the day, she hadn't noticed a set of eyes following her, discreetly from outside. So between beatings and unwarranted punishments, someone was watching. After the day was over, she could tell her father was asleep. So she said, "Miss Celeste, are you there?" As she asked this, the young woman tapped on her window, causing Willow to jump. She stifled her giggling, carefully placing her steps before opening the window. "Sorry, I'd meet you outside, but Papa only just got to sleep," she muttered, letting Celeste inside. "It's okay, Willow. But are you okay?" Celeste asked, looking at her bloodied face, sadness diminishing her natural glow. Willow nodded, but she knew she couldn't really hide the injuries, so she said, "I just tripped at school." Celeste didn't press her, despite seeing how the whole day had played out. "Okay," she said, trying to sound like she had just bought the lie. "Do you want me to clean you up and fix the wounds a little?" Willow had wanted to say no, but she didn't. She couldn't do that to her new friend, despite the lie from before. As she cleaned her wounds and applied bandages, Willow's stomach growled and Willow blushed deeply. But Celeste gave a soft laugh in return. "You skipped lunch today, didn't you?" Willow nodded in agreement before Celeste added, "Give me a second, Willow. I just need to finish this." Willow giggled and returned, "Okay, Miss Celeste." Celeste finished fixing her up as best she could before reaching behind her. Willow looked at her in confusion, wondering what she could be doing if this star woman didn't have a bag. Just as she was about to ask, Celeste turned back around, holding a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in front of her. "There you go, Willow. This should help." Willow looked at the food in awe, only to ask, "Are you sure I can have this? I mean, it's yours, right?" Celeste shook her head. "Nope. I made this for you, sweetie. So please, eat up." Willow thanked her repeatedly, nearly crying as she did so. When she took her first bite, she hummed blissfully. She was so thankful, especially since this meant that her dad was wrong about friends. "Willow, I hope you don't mind me asking, but how old are you?" Celeste asked kindly. Willow blinked, looking back at down at the food briefly. "I'm 4, she said, "but Papa doesn't like when people ask me that." Celeste faked embarrassment, an embarrassed blush, and said, "I'm sorry, your Papa must be very overprotective." Willow nodded and went back to eating. The pair of them sat in an awkward silence for a while before Willow asked, "Papa says after school I need to do his chores too, since work has him busy. Could you help me?" Celeste nodded, giving her the kindest smile, and said, We can even make games out of it." Willow smiled, giggling a little as she crawled into bed. Then she asked one final request to Celeste. "Could you stay with me and sing me to sleep?" Celeste nodded. She quietly sung her to sleep before leaving. The next day, weeks, months, and even a year went by with few problems between them, as Celeste was completing her task of protecting Willow, eventually to the point where Willow trusted her enough with her father's darker side. It was December by that point, and Willow called out for Celeste a week before her birthday. "Oh my! What happened?" Celeste whispered sharply, seeing the young girl cry and sob. Willow wouldn't stop crying, so Celeste did the only thing she could think in the moment. She hugged her close and sang to soothe her. As she sang, 2 thoughts crossed her mind. The fact that her father told her to do other things throughout the day, and that Willow's father had clearly gotten worse. "For a man who wants me to succeed," she thought, while soothing Willow, "he sure can't have me abandoning rules to protect Willow, can he?" As she finished the song, Celeste wondered if it even mattered, but she couldn't bring herself to leave Willow to that monster of a father either. "Miss Celeste," Willow called, finally breathing enough to address her. "Willow, what's wrong?" Celeste asked, worried about how she might hear as she placed worried about what she might hear as she placed a warm feeling gem in her hand. Willow almost began to cry again when she said, "I'm sorry. Friends aren't supposed to lie. But I didn't tell you about Papa at all. Celeste shook her head. No, none of that. I'm okay. You weren't trying to hurt me. So please, tell me what's wrong. Willow tried to swallow the knot in her throat before she said, Papa has always been odd. It started with small things, like yelling and hitting Mama. But then one night, he stood over her, covered in blood. When I asked him about it, he said Mama was planning to hurt us, so she had to die. I'm not sure about that anymore, because a little bit after he killed Mama, we moved. He began making me do all the work around the house. He said something about preparing me for my 5th birthday. It doesn't matter what I do, though. He yells at me for mistakes. Doesn't let me leave without him, and hits or stars me if I'm late or talk back. Tonight, Papa found out about your note, and he... Willow trailed off, the gravity of the situation hitting Celeste like a ton of bricks. For the first time ever, she wanted others involved hurt, her own father included. She couldn't keep bowing the knee to her father's rules, because she wasn't sure if it would get Willow killed. Then she would come home having failed, and she didn't want to fail. If not because of her father, then because of Willow herself. Celeste's light dimmed so much that she almost looked like a normal person. Her eyes seemed to flicker between soft blue and swirling red-orange, and her hair nearly darkened. Miss Celeste, what do I do? What do we do? Willow asked, noticing the change in Celeste almost instantly. Celeste shook off her anger, just as an idea entered her mind. Your birthday's next week on the 15th, right? Celeste asked, feeling rather clever. Willow nodded, confused. A confused look crossed her face. Yeah, but why? Celeste smiled, then said, Because for your birthday, I'm getting you out of here. Willow smiled, and then looked at the young Aster inquisitively. How? Papa says he's gonna stay with me all day. Celeste smiled calmly, almost understanding the 4-year-old's concern. Make sure you have your stuff packed. And try to sneak out the back door when your father's distracted. He'll have his friends over again that day, right? Willow's eyes sparkled, finally understanding her plan. So then I can call your name and we can run far away. Celeste nodded, shushing her as a reminder that her father was still asleep. Willow covered her mouth fearfully but nodded. Now then, why don't we play a quick board game and get you some good sleep? Celeste said, looking at the little girl who was now fully healed. Willow nodded. They spent a couple hours playing Candyland before Willow went to sleep. The two of them failed to realize that was one of the last moments of fun they would ever have. After a week of Willow's usual routine of trying to live day to day and talking with Celeste when her father wasn't home, her birthday came. Willow was now 5 years old, and she was going to be free. However, things felt incredibly strange when she woke up. She half wondered if it was just nerves, but then she looked at her clock. She should have been up an hour ago, but her papa was nowhere in sight, so she ran downstairs to start her chores, but her father had already done them. Hello, sweetie, her father said, making her feel uneasy. I'm sorry I've been so hard on you, but I want you to know your father is getting help. Willow didn't understand. She didn't feel sure. Her father's smile seemed genuine. Okay, she said, confused, but not sure if she should back out of the plans with Celeste or not. Her father plopped down a plate of fluffy pancakes in front of her, and she ate, not wanting him to get mad. The two of them were going through a normal day, with her even going to school being wished a good day. This felt too good to be true, but it felt wrong, too. People don't change overnight, right? Willow almost wondered if her father was playing nice so she wouldn't leave. As the school day ended, Willow pulled this resolve together to leave as planned with Miss Celeste. As she got in the car to go home, she answered her papa whenever he asked her a question. She wanted to make him think he'd won her over. When they got home, she said, "I'm going to do my homework, Papa." "Okay, sweet pea," he called back, so she packed her bag. As soon as her dad's friends showed up, she snuck out the back door with her stuff and made a break for it. She didn't get very far when her father's guttural screams pierced through the woods behind their house. In a matter of seconds, Willow began darting through the woods, adrenaline making her body feel like ice. Her feet began to carry her farther faster when she heard her dad running behind her. He screamed obscenities as he did, causing her heart to race. She was about to call out for Celeste when a sharp pain filled her head. The world briefly went dark after what felt like seconds. Her father stood over her. Willow was gripped with fear as she tried to cry out for Celeste again. Her father plunged a knife into her shoulder and she screamed out in agony. Her heart raced as she tried to slide away from her father. You'll be Ryzoth's vessel. You should be excited." Her father rasped out, plunging the knife into her right leg. Despite the pain, Willow was finally able to mutter in panic, "Celeste, please hurry." Her father scowled before an insane grin replaced his frustrated expression. "Your friend can't save you now," he cackled, plunging her with the knife. In a matter of seconds, before she could scream for help, her father repeatedly plunged the knife into her body, his laugh drowning out any prior peace in the area. The world began to fade from her vision while she gargled out Celeste's name one more time. Once her father left, she was unable to take notice, only hearing someone call her name and feeling her body move. "Willow! Oh God! I can do something! Please stay awake!" called Celeste's voice. Willow's eyes opened, seeing Celeste panic, trying to stop the bleeding. "Miss Celeste!" she coughed. Celeste tried to shush her, as a futile effort to try to keep her alive. Willow still continued. "I know you want to save me, but I think it's too late. Please just don't let Papa do this to anyone else." Despite saying that unbroken, she fell back into a fit of coughing before the world went dark for the last time. After her life faded, Celeste faded too. Her glowing dissipated to nothing. Her hair turned to a dark brown and her eyes became a swirling black, orange, and red. She cried loud pain sobs that cut through the air. She couldn't think. Her heart felt like it was full of needles as sadness and anger cut into her like a knife. When a man entered the area with a group of people behind him, all of them wore demon masks to cover their faces. The man who led their ranks growled, "Who are you? Why is my daughter the vessel being hugged by some strange woman? Put Ryzoth's vessel down." Suddenly, Celeste stopped crying, feeling something inside of her burst. She slowly let go of Willow and stood up. "Excuse me," she said, her voice shaking. "Ryzoth? Is that what this is about? A demon who would kill you without a second thought?" The man approached her, spinning the blood-soaked knife. Martha didn't understand. Willow wouldn't have either. His sweet release of death is a blessing to this weak world. Willow needed to be tough enough to handle that change, and Celeste began to laugh maniacally. Her shoulders shook harshly as a loud bellowing laugh escaped her lips. It paused the man's monologue, as heat seemed to fill the immediate area. "Willow was your toy! Well, you played with forces you don't understand and can't control," Celeste said through her maniacal laughter. With the failure to save Willow from her father, and her father standing right in front of her, The heat formed into bright blue heated claws on her fingers. The group in front of her began to back away as she advanced. She laughed, crying at the same time. Most of their deaths were blanked out in her mind, though she could remember the squeals of pain and the sickening cracks and pops that came with her from Willow's father. The others were about the same. As they ran, she would attack them with brutality she didn't even know she had. Sizzling sounds intermingled with crunches and screams. Each sound filled her with an extreme amount of joy. When she reached the last person, her purple dress was covered in bloodstains. Her skin was covered in blood. Any kindness and cuteness she had held before was gone, and the last man standing looked horrified. He was trying to keep from vomiting as he stared at the massacre that took place in front of him. "Monster!" the man suddenly cried out as she drew even closer. She paused, pretending she felt embarrassed before laughing a little. "That's rich, coming from you. You could have done something so many times, but you didn't. So if I'm the monster, then you are, too." She held up her hand, ready to shred him like she had the rest. When she looked at his expression, aside from fear, he looked like her words had meant something to him. A slight grin crossed her face as she bent down to him. Her face splattered with blood, her eyes seeming to glow all tied together with a smile that only a sadist could have. The man looked as though he was going to faint when she whispered in his ear, only having to move slightly to do so. "If you can do something next time, do something. Anything. Avoid running into another supernova of blood. You won't get off this easy next time." She walked away, feeling her powers taken from her as she lost all connection with the home of the Asters. She shredded her outfit, stealing a black hoodie from one of the bodies as well as black pants and a red shirt. She stole a pair of boots off of another body. They were brown and red bloodstains. She had walked away from the scene, feeling a familiar stare, but knowing it was a last glance at her for her actions before the feeling faded. She disappeared into the woods. Thank you once again, Tesla Cats, for tuning in to another episode of Hunters of Ryzoth. Again, if you liked this video, remember to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment, and come back again next Sunday for the current final part of the series. All of these are being recorded in the same day, but will be posted on Sunday again. So please, come back again. Enjoy the ride. And remember to keep on keeping on. Goodbye.